When we think of Elvis Presley, we think of flashing lights, screaming fans, and the man who changed music forever. But imagine this, king of rock and roll at the peak of his fame, stepping away from it all to wear a U.S. Army uniform. Why would the world's biggest superstar leave behind sold-out arenas to scrub floors, march in the mud, and serve like an ordinary soldier? This is the story of how the Army transformed Elvis Presley through duty, heartbreak, love, and sacrifice. Fame meets draft papers. By 1958, Elvis Presley wasn't just famous, he was untouchable. With hits like Jailhouse Rock and Hound Dog, he had become the most talked-about entertainer in America. His hips caused scandals, his voice electrified audiences, and his popularity seemed unstoppable. But that same year, a letter arrived that would change everything. Elvis Presley had been drafted into the United States Army. Fans panicked. Millions begged President Eisenhower to spare him, fearing that 2 years away would end his career. Politicians debated whether Elvis should serve as a regular soldier or be given special treatment, performing for the troops. But Elvis made his own decision, one that shocked everyone. He said, "I don't want to be treated any different. I want to serve just like any other soldier." That choice would define the next chapter of his life, from Graceland to boot camp. In March 1958, Elvis reported for duty at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. Cameras flashed as his famous hair was cut down to regulation length. Fans cried. Newspapers ran headlines. "Elvis joins the Army." From there, he was sent to Fort Hood, Texas for basic training. Imagine it. The king of rock living in crowded barracks, marching in 100-degree heat, learning how to handle rifles and crawl through mud. No private jets, no limousines, just boots, uniforms, and early morning wake-up calls. Many soldiers admitted they expected Elvis to act like a spoiled celebrity, but they were surprised. He followed orders, worked hard, and never demanded special treatment. To his fellow soldiers, Elvis wasn't a superstar. He was just Private Presley. The heartbreak. But just as Elvis was adjusting to military life, tragedy struck. In August 1958, his mother, Gladys Presley, died suddenly of a heart attack. Gladys was the center of Elvis's world, the person he loved more than anyone. Losing her shattered him. Witnesses said he sobbed uncontrollably at her funeral, collapsing from grief. For the rest of his life, Elvis carried that heartbreak. And it happened while he was wearing the Army uniform. Fans later said that when Elvis came back, something in him had changed. He was older, wiser, but also more fragile inside. Elvis in Germany. After basic training, Elvis was assigned to the 3rd Armored Division in Friedberg, West Germany. For 2 years, he lived far from Graceland, far from Hollywood lights, in a small apartment off base. But Germany also became a turning point. Away from America, Elvis learned discipline and structure. He grew closer to his fellow soldiers and often invited them over, where he'd cook for them and play music casually, not as a superstar, but as a friend. And then came another twist of fate. In 1959, Elvis met a 14-year-old American girl living on the base, Priscilla Beaulieu. Their romance began quietly, but it would later define his personal life. By 1967, she would become his wife and the mother of his only daughter, Lisa Marie Presley. The king returns. By the time Elvis was discharged in March 1960, many thought his career was over. 2 years was a long time in show business, and new artists were already taking the stage. But Elvis had something others didn't: credibility. Serving as a regular soldier, not hiding behind fame, had earned him respect. Critics who once dismissed him as just a wild rock singer now praised him as a man of duty and honor. When he returned to America, fans were waiting in the thousands. He was welcomed back not only as a star, but as a hero. His first projects after the Army included GI Blues and Elvis is Back, both of which became huge successes. The king was back on his throne, but he was no longer the same man. How the Army changed Elvis's time in the Army wasn't just 2 years of service, it reshaped him. Discipline. The strict routines of the military gave him a sense of order that carried into his career. credibility. Serving proved he wasn't just a spoiled celebrity, he was an American willing to sacrifice. Personal growth. He faced his greatest loss, his mother's death, and somehow found the strength to keep going. Love, his meeting with Priscilla. In Germany changed the course of his personal life forever. The Army had stripped away the glamour and revealed the man behind the legend. But even with all the respect he gained, Elvis's Army story had its shadows. Away from the spotlight, he began experimenting with prescription pills to stay awake during long shifts, a habit that would later spiral into one of the darkest struggles of his life. And though fans welcomed him back, the music world was different. Rock and roll had evolved. Elvis had to fight hard to reclaim his place. His movies helped him stay relevant. But the Army years marked the beginning of his battle with the pressures of fame, discipline, and personal demons. The story of Elvis Presley in the Army isn't just about a superstar serving his country. It's about a man at the height of glory, stripped of his crown, forced to face grief, loneliness, and duty like any ordinary American. For 2 years, Elvis wasn't the king, he was simply Private Presley. And yet in those years, he proved something far greater than fame. He proved his humanity. When he returned, he was no longer just a rock and roll idol. He was a man who had endured loss, found love, and shown the world that even legends must answer the call of duty. Because sometimes the crown is heavy, and sometimes the greatest act of greatness is simply standing shoulder to shoulder with ordinary men.